Great Debaters Contest is brought to you by Safaricom M-Pesa.
Welcome to the home of debate, the Great Debaters Contest. This is our Nairobi edition. I am Mariam Bishar.
And I am Austin Yumbok. We have Loreto Convent Msongari versus Precious Blood Riruta. The motion is, rising levels of addiction are due to poor mentorship by adults.
First proposer, you have 3 minutes.
Children are, after all, not just adults in the making, but people whose needs, affairs and experiences need to be taken into consideration, but adults have not done this. Ivy Komboka proposing this motion. The rising level of addiction is due to poor mentorship by adults. Rising level, this is the increase in number of something, and in this case, addiction. Addiction, this is the state of depending on something too much that you cannot do anything without it. Poor mentorship by adults. This is where adults have failed in their responsibility of guiding and mentoring our youth. Ladies and gentlemen, adults have failed. Adults are poor role models. We see these days that most parents come home drunk. They abuse drugs and they expect their children not to use the same drugs. You know that the apple does not fall far from the tree. If my parents abuse drugs, then I'll tend to think it's okay because they're my leaders, they're my mentors. Honestly, this is not right. Now, recently, there was a Muranga incident whereby a father dragged his son along to buy illicit brew just because the son was turning 18 and it was his 18th birthday. He thought that making him drink illicit brew was a sign of maturity to show that he's become a man. Guess what? They both died. Now, is death a sign of maturity? I don't think so. Parents these days are availing devices such as phones, laptops, tabs to their children, and they do not regulate the usage of these gadgets. Hence, children are becoming addicted to these gadgets. You find that it's at 2 a.m., you're online, your mother is online, your father is online on WhatsApp, and no one is saying anything. Honestly, our parents need to take responsibility. Also, adults are the people selling these drugs to our youth. When you go to bars, you might find a 13-year-old walking into a bar to purchase drugs. And that adult selling the drugs with all his sanity agrees to sell these drugs to a young person, an underage. Honestly, this is poor mentorship. Also, we have the fact that parents are majoring on mentorship on stuff on things such as drug abuse, pornography, and they're neglecting other minor things because they think these are the major things affecting our youth. Yet there are other forms of addiction, such as food. Did you know that you can be addicted to food? Eating too much. Most teenagers these days, they eat uncontrollably. That's an addiction, but parents think that drug abuse, that's the only thing that a teenager will be thinking of doing wrong, but this is not the case. And then we find that in schools, we have teachers and watchmen. These people help the children to smuggle drugs into the school. Honestly, our adults have failed. They need to shape up and lead us in the right direction. Thank you.
Opposition will hear your opening remarks. You have 3 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, in spite the fact that I am wearing glasses, I cannot seem to be seeing through the points that the proposers are putting across. Rose Tabuke from Loreto Convent, Msongari. Addiction amongst the youth ranges from porn to internet and lastly majors in drug and substance addiction. Ladies and gentlemen, the most abused drug in our country is alcohol and the most abused substance is glue, as stated by NACADA. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2007, the percentage of the youth abusing drugs was 32%. In 2014, ladies and gentlemen, the percentage has risen to 52%. And in 2030, ladies and gentlemen, you don't know what the percentage will be. I don't know what the percentage will be, but we both know that it will be insanely high. Do you know how Eskimos capture wolves? They do this by dipping a knife in blood, freezing it, and burying the handle in the snow. Ladies and gentlemen, the wolf has a strong sense of smell. It will find this knife, licking it, and start to lick it slowly by slowly, not knowing that the blade is cutting its tongue. The more it licks, the more it bleeds, the more it loses blood. This is what addiction is doing to the youth. Ladies and gentlemen, the youth are hooked to drugs. Mentors, correction, love, care, inspiration. These are the qualities that my mentor is portraying. Instant gratification. Ladies and gentlemen, you might be seated there very happy, but do you know that you should be counting yourself lucky? This is because teenagers, the youth, do not find happiness that easily. What do they turn to? They turn to drugs, thinking that this will sort them consolation, that this will give them happiness, curiosity. I know you all have this experience where your mother, your brother, your guardian told you not to enter a particular room, but you had this strong urge, you had this great compulsion to enter this specific room to find out what is there that I am not supposed to see or access. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the same case with drugs. Mentors have warned the youth over and over again. But the youth seem to want to understand, what is this in drug abuse that I am being told not to take? What is this that makes my peers happy and I am not at the same level of happiness? Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, curiosity killed the cat. But this is very ironical because, ladies and gentlemen, in our contest, the curious youth are being killed by cats because Mira is being abused by 75 of the youth in our country. Thank you.
Time now for cross-examinations. Proposers, you have 3 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, having a mentor is the one-way ticket to the big league, to greater visibility. And it's all true, except when it's poor, except when the poor mentorship is poor. First of all, internet abuse is topping alcohol. Get your facts right, please. Second, curiosity is brought about by boredomness. When your parents or when your mentors don't involve you in things that keep you on your toes, that is poor mentorship. They are advising you that you should be idle. You should not take your time well. What makes them turn to drugs is because their mentors have not shown them the right way. They have not advised them that these drugs have consequences. They say drugs are bad, but I know why they are bad. They are sugarcoating things that should not be sugarcoated. My first point, let's take a look at the pharmacists who sell to us condoms and drugs. We go to these pharmacists and chemists asking for drugs. Pardon me, because I cannot stand like a statue there. These pharmacists, we go to these pharmacists and they ask us, they don't even ask us for IDs. They give us condoms and drugs, morning pills, which is encouraging us to have sex. Sex leads to addiction before you're even 18. This is what is leading to the rise in the levels of addiction among the youth. Poor mentorship. By poor mentorship, I mean that it lacks in something. It's there, but something is lacking. When the parents neglect their responsibilities, they don't give their priorities to their children. This annoys the children. They don't even want to listen to their mentors. Thank you.
Opposition, you have 3 minutes for your rebuttal.
Ladies and gentlemen, the claims put across by my counterpart are interesting, but that's all they are. They are not true. So does she want to tell us that prevention, I want to tell you that prevention is better than cure. Ladies and gentlemen, is she trying to tell our youth not to use condoms and have unprotected sex? Ladies and gentlemen, she also came and said that Some youth will go to the, no, not some youth, some people will go to the bar and find a 13-year-old there. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a policy saying no adult is allowed to be accompanied by a minor to a bar. So I beg my counterpart to better her research next time. Moving on to my points. Secrecy. Ladies and gentlemen, no youth will take drugs in front of the adults. Why? Because they know that parent will ask them. They won't take drugs in front of their teachers because they know that those teachers will ask them. So am I supposed to blame my parents? Am I supposed to blame my mother for thinking that I have left the house to go to the library and yet I have gone to a closed shisha joint? Am I supposed to blame my teacher who thinks I have left the school to go home, but I have actually gone to take antidepressant drugs? Are we supposed to blame adults? Ladies and gentlemen, most people today say, I am bored. But ladies and gentlemen, do you realize that these 3 words can lead to drug intake? Ladies and gentlemen, the youth of today, most youth who cannot be able to stay alone, those who need company, if their friends are not available, they need something to give them solace, and they find this solace in drugs. This youth will rush to take marijuana, alcohol, and even sniff glue. Ladies and gentlemen, addiction will set in, but self-control will set out. And if you have listened to me carefully, you will note that I have not mentioned any case of poor mentorship by the adults. Thank you.
M-Pesa makes life have no pressure. You can send money from here to wherever. Costs are low and you can pay whenever. It works for everybody, discriminates nobody. M-Pesa brought a revolution, a kind of technological evolution. Safaricom being a better option, I can't help but mention how M-Pesa is a state-of-the-art perfection. M-Pesa drives me crazy because it's so amazing.
Take part in the M Challenge by sending your short song, rap or poem about Safaricom M-Pesa on WhatsApp, and you could win 1,000 shillings in Safaricom airtime.
Proposers have been asked, how does sale of condoms to underage people tie in with drug and substance abuse? And the opposition have been asked, is there anything more that adults can do aside from just warning the youth about perhaps the ills in society? We'll have the debaters respond. Proposer number 3, you have 3 minutes.
The name is Gloria Mande from the Precious Blood Riruta, and I am here to answer your question from the boy from Starehe. If I might jog your memory a little bit, I'm talking about, you might need to know the meaning of the motion. We're talking about rising levels of addiction is due to poor mentorship. Addiction, there are many forms of addiction, my friend, many forms. And hence, by them giving us condoms, they already know we're sexually active and they're just boosting our sexual activity. By giving us condoms, well, it's a leeway. They're just giving us a safer way of engaging in the act of sex. And in fact, you should be grateful for that. So, proximity of bars situated near learning institutions. Now, might I say, near learning institutions, and might I even say, beneath learning institutions. Believe it or not, there is a school in Mombasa, might I say Changamwe, I shall not disclose the name, but it has a bar located beneath it. Now tell me, what is the government, what are the adults in the government doing? Are they mentoring us well? By issuing trading licenses for them to enable the establishment of bars next to or even beneath our schools, it's enhancing temptation. And hence, there's even a recent story of 2 boys who escaped from their school, jumped over the fence to a nearby bar to buy. I don't think they went to study organic chemistry of alcohol now. They went to take alcohol. If that is not poor mentorship, I don't know what is. Research from various samples of students from our schools and home areas of residence says that some families are afraid to mention some certain words such as sex, masturbation. They are afraid. Now tell me, children should be taught how to think, not what to think, by hiding these words, hiding the meaning, the main essence. They're just making us more curious, and hence we shall go and find out. We shall indulge. We shall carry out masturbation so that we can see what we're missing. And hence, from masturbation, from sex, we all delve into addiction. Now tell me, is this mentorship we're being given? Or it's just fun? Thank you.
Opposition, you have 3 minutes to respond.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to say that answers are like closed rooms and questions are doors that let us in. Sabrina Boli, representing Loreto Convent, Msongari. Thank you so much for your intelligent question. You would like to know if there is a better way of guiding the youth and mentoring them in the correct path. Yes, there have been mentorship programs that have been started, but I would want to tell you something. We are driving ourselves into a society where our mentors' words don't even mean a thing. We are being driven into a society where we'd rather listen to that teenager sitting next to us, yet we don't even know much about him or her, than listen to my auntie, to my uncle, or to my elder brother. Now, to add on to the points my fellow critics have put across, I would like to emphasize on peer pressure. Now, I don't know how many of you have ever thought of saying this word, peer pressure, but ladies and gentlemen, 75% of 12 to 24-year-olds said that they are encouraged to do drugs after being encouraged by their friends to do drugs. This is stated by NACADA and the World Health Organization. You know, it's so funny how we can sit down and spend so much money we haven't even earned buying things we do not even want to buy. And why? To impress people that we don't even like? Well, that is how we're living, and that is how we have set our minds to this. And I would like to say that there is easy access to this drug and substances. Now take, for example, judges, the handout that was issued to you. The underlined part says that some young men are also said to be using trolleys meant for hawking samosas or sausages, and their customers find their way to them. I know Pasua has become common amongst many of us here, and you know, we see these trolleys in town, and we're like, I need a smoky, and I need a samosa. But then what we don't understand is that these same trolleys are being used by the youth to swindle drugs. Now you are leaving house with 30 shillings from your uncle or from your guardian, and you are saying that you're going to buy a samosa. You come back with the little wrapper written farmer's choice, but what is inside this wrapper? I don't think I have mentioned anywhere where our mentors are involved in this. Our mentors are trying their best. Our mentors are doing their best. And yet they don't have any idea what we as the youth are doing. We are taking advantage. We are seeing our mentors as people who don't have any value in our life because we have opted to listen to our peers and we have opted to succumb into temptation. But for those who are believing, my fellow opponents, you are going nowhere. Thank you.
Proposers, you have 1 minute.
She is dying in a hospital bed because of liver cirrhosis. She wished that her parents had told her that taking alcohol was wrong. She wishes that her parents were there to tell her that drugs are wrong, but she did not get this mentorship. Her parents were not there to tell her this. Now she is dying in a hospital bed just because the parents did not take responsibility. She found her consolation in drugs, the happiness that she did not find with her parents. She did not find with her parents. She found it in drugs. Ladies and gentlemen, our adults have failed. Our adults are not showing us a good example. A good mentor will give guidance and direction, not just telling you that you're getting it wrong, but explain it to you, what makes it wrong, and how to fix it. Now that's the difference between criticism and constructive criticism. That's the difference between a poor mentor and a good mentor. And clearly our parents are not good mentors. Thank you.
Opposition, you also have a minute.
You know, what fascinates me about addiction is that one would destroy most aspects of a normal life. And why? Because for a brief moment, you feel okay. And what fascinates me about addiction is how one can spend so much money buying things they don't even want to please people they don't even like. But then what's fascinating me most about addiction is how my opponents can come here and try to convince you that their mistakes should be held responsible by our adults. And I am apologizing to you, mother. And I am apologizing to you, father, guardian, and uncle. Because my fellow opponents cannot see how hard you are trying. Because my fellow opponents can stand here and dare accuse you of being poor mentors. And I am standing here disappointed because most of you are almost convinced. But I'm going to stand here and going to tell you that the rising levels of addiction amongst the youth is not because of you. Thank you.
Precious Blood, Riruta, Ivy, Mary, and Gloria. You're very good debaters. I love the examples that you give, the case study. I think for Ivy, what I remember is the man who dies with his son because, of addiction. And that is something that you always want to do. Leave your audience with something that they can remember. So that was really powerful on your part. And of course, when you came back to do the final submissions, you did it with a bang. Very good job. Mary Mugo, one of the things I admire in you is passion. At some point I thought you'd fall off the stage just to be able to bring your point home. You are very passionate, you have a very good voice, and you're articulate. I think for me the only concern was there's a word I had for the first time, boredomness. I don't know whether that word exists. I think you meant boredom, but you get away with it because it's not easy to stand on that particular stage. And of course you play your role well as a cross-examiner. Gloria, you have a great voice, very eloquent, very passionate as well. And I like the fact that you also allude to other forms of addiction and talk about some of the things that we are all very uncomfortable talking about. And I like the fact that you're confident and that you can talk about these things because the first thing that we need to do in correcting these ills is talking about them and not keeping quiet about them. And so I admire your courage and I congratulate you, for that. Overall, I think a great performance, by Precious Blood, Riruta.
Loreto, wow. Tabuke, I just love the excellent way of understanding the motion and demystifying the motion like you did, Joy as well, very passionate. I saw that. I think you brought in I would want to call it now the Mathali angle of the motion, Cross-examination as well was well done, and I think you also alluded to the team well. For Sabrina, I think you also killed it, The emotional appeal, especially at the last submission, when you apologized even to the dads and the moms, that was one way of just getting your audience attention and, of course, bringing your point across. Peer pressure, ignorance, the points that you brought forth as well were excellent, and I think the team as well demonstrated great teamwork. All the best to the two teams.
Precious Blood, the judges awarded you with 70%. Please give them a hand. Your opponents, the ladies of Loreto Msongari, the judges awarded you with 76%, making you the winners.
Congratulations to the two teams for such a spirited effort. And I'd like to warn and remind members of the audience and also those back home, don't do drugs. So we have, with gratitude from Safaricom M-Pesa and KBC Channel 1, we'd like to ask all our members in the audience and also our viewers back home to follow us on Twitter at Great Debaters EA and all our other social media platforms, and keep watching the Great Debaters contest. Austin Nyambok.
And I am Mariam Bishar. We'll see you next time.
Great Debaters Contest was brought to you by Safaricom M-Pesa.